My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world, and they also said I created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. I started my first website at the age of 16. I took all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing firm. The marketing firm provided no results, and I quickly learned that I wasn't alone. Out of my frustration and from being broke, I had no choice but to learn marketing. My first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped them generate another $25 million in sales, and from that point, I realized the power of marketing. I helped everyone that I could, and I built my reputation by being honest and over-delivering. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay, but nothing's more satisfying than helping small business owners succeed. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., Fast Company, and even on my own blogs. It's so awesome to know that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material in their classroom. Over the years, I've received awards from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. People believe marketing is expensive and difficult. Fortunately, that's not true. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I know you guys all have a busy schedule, so we really appreciate it. Let's dive right in. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. Today's webinar is about the new release and all the big AI updates that Google has been making, and we want to end up breaking down how you can adapt. So let's dive right in. My name is Neil Patel. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital. Today, we also have Will and Chris with us. Will, do you want to give a quick introduction on yourself? And then Chris, you can do the same after.
Yeah, so hi, my name's William Kammer. I'm a VP of SEO with NP Digital and NP Excel, specifically the SMB division. I've been here about 3 years, and in my 15 to 20 years in the game, I've done SEO for everything from a tiny mom and pop to major conglomerates and enterprise companies. So, Chris?
Good. Hello, I'm Chris Hill. I'm the content team manager for NP Excel at NP Digital. I am lucky enough to get to work right alongside of William to deliver content to our SMB clients. I've been here about that same 3 years, and just feel really lucky to work with such an incredible team.
Awesome. So we're NP Digital. We're a global ad agency. We have 1,000+ employees in 19+ countries, won a lot of awards. We're seeing a lot of data on, when it comes to the changes Google's making. Now, with a lot of the AI changes, it's mainly predominantly happening in the United States. And then the plan is for them to roll it out for the rest of the world. So the real question is what's all the fuss about, right? Some people are worried that, hey, is this going to cause my SEO traffic to tank? Is this going to cause my paid advertising traffic to tank? Google thinks about all these things when they're making these changes, and they are prioritizing user experience. You may agree or you may disagree, but that is their long-term goal. And with Gemini and search, it's pretty much going mainstream, right? Google announced on May 14th that their AI generative experience will roll out to the US. And they ended up not just rolling it out. They said, hey, it's not a beta feature or opt-in feature. It's just there. Funny enough, the other day, I posted something on Twitter, and I'll read it for you guys. It was about the AI overviews, because we had, let's see, we tracked over 10,000 searches to see how AI overview would show up on how often people click on them. So we tracked a total of 10,383 searches. AI overview showed up 3,059 times, which is, roughly 30% of the time. And they generated 477 clicks. So, when you
think about it, when AI overviews show up, the click rate isn't bad. It's 477 out of, call it like 3,000. In total, it had around a 15% click rate. Now, for the times that it showed up. Now, I'm not saying that um, it's going to get worse or better. The quality of the AI overviews is still up for debate. There's a lot of issues. Google knows it, and they're working on fixing it as well. But the first thing that you really need to understand with AI overviews is it's really similar to Google's featured snippets, but it's just powered by advanced AI. And it can handle a lot more complex queries. And when you type in a query that's more long tail, when I say long tail, I'm not talking about 3 or 4 words. I'm talking about 5 or 6 words, or 7 or 8 or 10 words, or even 20 words. They understand the context of the query and the ordering of the words and what you're really trying to ask for, right? And here's the example: Boston Yoga, Pilates Studio, walking time, Beacon Hill, intro offers. Like, it's taking everything, whether you use complete sentences or not, and it's trying to really understand the context of the query versus just the keywords and showing you results that have the keywords. And this helps them provide you what you're looking for faster. And in the long run, and I say long run because AI overviews is not perfect and it has a long way to go, because there's things like it'll tell you to jump off a bridge, or if your cheese off the pizza is falling off, it tells you to use glue, which of course you're not going to use glue. When you ask it breakfast questions, it'll tell you, hey, here's what I make my kids. Well, Google doesn't technically have kids, so that would be irrelevant. But it's trying to understand what you're asking and give you exactly what you're looking for. And the cool part about what Google's trying to do is, no matter how you modify or adjust your search queries, they're trying to keep this in mind in the long run, because right now when you do a search for most things, depending on the country you're in, if you don't find what you're looking for, you have to do a new search versus continually modifying your search and learning from the previous set of results. AI overviews is integrated within existing search results. If you think about it, you're seeing it, it's pulling it, it's really quick, probably juicing up a lot of processor time on their end. Uh, the real issue right now is, when you look at the AI overviews, is it's the quality, and the early results that we're seeing is a lot of people are skimming them or skipping them or clicking and then going back and then going to the next organic section or paid section. And this isn't necessarily because AI overviews is bad. It's just early, and time will really tell when A, it's out there much longer, and B, the results improve, and C, it ends up rolling out globally, right? Because different people search very differently over time. It also has a lot of adaptability. It can handle multi-step reasoning and deep analysis, making them really good for both basic questions as well as very complex queries as well. Again, if you've seen AI overviews, it's not perfect, but it's getting better and better over time, or it should get better and better. You just have to be patient. This technology is really new. Imagine what it's going to do, not 6 months from now, but a few years from now. Just think of rich snippets, but a newer version of rich snippets that just really empowers the searcher. And then you also have dynamic learning. Look, it's AI. What's cool about this versus just traditional rich snippets or anything that shows up at the top, it's really learning from how people are engaging and interacting, and it's figuring out how to improve the accuracy and the relevancy of the answers. So that way, over time, it keeps getting better and better. So that way it can better delight you.
Like Neil just said, this is brand new technology. This is new to us. It's new to you. We've been participating in the beta tests as this has gone. This isn't brand new. We're not being clobbered with it completely out of nowhere. However, there's a lot of things that we don't know. We're going to talk a little bit today about the things that we don't know and the things that we do know. But here are some things that we know already. First of all, like Neil said, not every search is going to trigger an AI response. We're not exactly sure how many. That 30% of the time figure seems pretty darn accurate. But Google's not telling us what keywords will trigger this sort of response. In fact, Google has said that they're not going to report on what keywords are going to trigger this response. Google claims that AI overviews is going to be used to answer those more complex questions, those your money or your life questions that take more than just a meta description, or even more than you can find in a featured snippet. This will be like an extended featured snippet. We also know, as Neil alluded to, that not all AI responses are accurate. AI overviews we're sort of all over social media right now with amazing and sometimes terrifying examples of poor responses from the AI. For example, telling you to drink 2 quarts of urine every 24 hours to prevent kidney stones. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's not right. There was one response that told users to eat a small pebble every day to help digestion. Also, not necessarily correct. And of course, jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge as a means of treating depression is a rather horrifying example of these sorts of results. So we know that these can't be completely relied on. The good news is, as we'll talk about later, there's links right below that users can use to go vet that material and to find out more information. We also know that not everybody loves AI overviews. In fact, immediately after launch, searches for how to disable AI skyrocketed. I don't know, William, you might know the more recent results on this particular search term, but that's pretty sizable search volume for something. Obviously, it's new. Everyone's going to be a little bit intimidated by it. Not everyone wants to see those results in their search. So that makes some sense. But this isn't the most popular thing with literally everyone quite yet. We also know that you can get around it. There's no way to opt out of AI overviews, but you can change your interface to disable, or not to disable it, I'm sorry, but to display only links by using Google's new web filter. We also know that there's a mechanism to prevent your own content from showing up in AI overviews. If you're concerned as a business owner about your content being used in these sorts of ways, of being a part of the large language model that Google's pulling from to create these search results, there's a way to disable that. Google has a no snippet feature that will let you pull your content out of AI, at least for now, and at least as far as we know.
But if you do this, you could also be risking potential traffic in the future. Of course, you can reverse it, but you're probably a little bit better off keeping it than removing it.
Yeah, and I can go a little bit deeper into that now with exactly early stages, how we're seeing AI overviews impact the traffic of our clients. Yes, like Chris alluded to, there was some distaste for AI overviews when it first launched, but we don't know yet how much of that is just because it's a new feature and adoption takes a while, and Google and users are going to get used to it and they're going to continue to use it more and more, or if they're actually going to rebel against it. But history has shown us that usually you shove something in somebody's face long enough and they adapt to it when it comes to Google. So I personally don't think it's going away anywhere. And so then how do we then capitalize it from an SEO perspective? Google was dead when map packs came out. I remember I was in SEO when that happened. SEO was dead when featured snippets came out. People are saying SEO is dead now that AI overviews came out. And I disagree with it just as much as I did the other times things like this occurred. So Google's embracing AI because users are embracing AI. And we're seeing that happen in a few different ways. And with this graph, what's interesting is you see that drop in search engine, direct search engine questions being asked, and an increase in social media and AI chatbots. But if any of you have logged into Facebook or Instagram recently, Meta AI is now their search feature. And so now the Facebook search engine is basically a social media / AI chatbot, but it's also partnered with Bing and Google to utilize their results within their AI functionality. So all of these are still interconnected in one way or another. Google has partnered with Reddit, and now Bing has too recently, to feed their AI systems. People are buying the AI systems, data is being exchanged back and forth. And so it's important to have very clear structured data and information for your website and your brand across the internet, because not all of these data sources and AI functionalities are exclusive or in their own bubble. That information is being shared across the internet. And so far what we've seen, so we've been in the SGE beta, the Search Generative Experience beta with Google for 6 to 9 months, doing a lot of testing. We have a few weeks now of post AI overview data that's real world data directly from our clients. And what we're seeing is that something that we've expected, but not completely everything that we expected. So we expected informational content, top of funnel, blog content, news content. We expected a lot of that to be impacted. And that's because those things can very easily be pulled into AI and then regurgitated by AI overviews or SGE. But what was kind of surprising and what Google talked about at I/O, and we're seeing, is Google's actually getting a lot more in-depth than just that top level, kind of surface level informational content. And it's getting a bit deeper. So some of the implications that we're seeing so far, and kind of where our current hypotheses and theories are at, because this is still a rapidly evolving topic and will be for a while, I imagine, is that how much you're affected by AI overviews is going to be determined greatly by your industry and how your website's built and the kind of content you target, those specific keywords, what the SERP environments are like, and what the intent of the users are like for those keywords. So every website's going to be affected differently, and we're already seeing that. Revenue driving traffic in e-commerce, local services, things like that. We're seeing that they're relatively minimally impacted, and which is what we expected. If you have and this kind of is in line with the early March algorithm updates, for those of you familiar with the core algorithm or helpful content updates from then, where they seriously hit informational only websites that were ad driven or affiliate driven. But if you had a real product you were offering in e-commerce or a real service you were offering locally, you were almost affected not at all. In a lot of cases, or in all of our cases for our client base. And so if you have something of substance to offer the users, you seem to be a bit safer than if you're relying on content in and of itself to drive revenue for your website. And as I mentioned in the last slide, your money, your life. I was initially thinking it would not be as affected because I didn't think Google would want to have the liability of giving medical information and your money, your life type answers in AI overviews. But according to the examples that have been shared so far today, that's definitely not the case. There's a lot of medical advice going on in AI overviews right now.
Yeah, the real question is in the long run, will they end up facing lawsuits and stuff like that over it? But yeah, they're really particular with your money, your life, anything that's health related or investing related. But shockingly, we're seeing it quite a bit in the AI overviews, and I would have guessed that most of us would thought that would be the opposite case, but it isn't.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer. They're going to get some kind of lawsuit at some point for some kind of liability. But when we're getting into the actual data and how clients are being affected by AI overviews, this is actually a real snapshot from my executive dashboard. I anonymize and aggregate client data, and so I can segment it by industry and see exactly what's happening in real time, or basically real time. It takes some data processing to see exactly how all of our clients are being affected and if we need to pivot strategies in any particular area. What we saw with the initial week or so of data pre and post launch of AI overviews was relatively minimal. And we know that for a couple of reasons. One, day one, we suspect about 0.5%, maybe up to 1% of queries were being affected. We now know from our own studies that are more recent that more than that are definitely potentially being affected. And when we look at our client database, our aggregate client data, we see some interesting things that make sense. So we've been testing and playing in the AI and SGE space, AI overviews, optimization, and figuring out the right strategies there for months and months now. And so what we saw after we've made, our clients have been part of these standard operating procedures for us, is that impressions went down a bit, which makes sense. There's a new fancy module, AI Overviews, that's pushing everything down the web page, which means you're getting pushed down and your pixel depth is deeper on search engine result pages. But what was interesting is, although our impressions dropped, our clicks went up. And so if that means that we're showing up in probably different ways slightly. So the weekly trends that you usually see in the markets we play in, you kind of start peaking in Monday, Tuesday, you kind of trickle down. Those trends were similar, but the click-through rate and click trends were irregular, which means that our strategies that we optimized for and rolled out during beta were likely effective, and the irregularities in our standard KPIs show that we're probably ranking differently and getting engaged with differently. But like Neil said at the beginning of the presentation, that might not be a bad thing, because the click-through rate of being cited in an AI overview is not nothing, and we can see that because our click-through rate actually went up post rollout of AI overviews. Just to touch a little bit on touch a little bit on paid. Sorry, I got distracted for a second in chat. On paid, so paid is still evolving just as fast in this space as organic is. They're figuring out how to implement, where to position. We know that Google, if some AI overview answers are pulling in like Google Shopping ads and implementing in that way. But they're still being very hesitant, it appears. And okay, well, if there's an AI overview answer, where do we put the ads? Do we put them above? Do we put them below? Do we split them half and half? This is determined by industry or how much they pay? Those are all things that I think are relative unknowns and are still being tested out. But I would be very surprised if Google wasn't going to figure out a way to exploit AI overviews to increase ad revenue. Okay, I need to close this Q&A chat. So the lines between organic and paid are becoming blurry. We can see that in the AI overviews right now with the meshing of search ads with AI overview answers. And shopping ads specifically. And so they're figuring out how to do this. They have to be careful. They have to make sure they're not tricking the user into clicking on an ad when they don't know it's an ad. That's always kind of a fine line they walk. And they're going to have new fine lines they're going to find out how did they need to walk while they utilize AI overviews in the ad space in some way, in some shape or form.
And also keep in mind, when you look at this screenshot right here of these products, right, to unwrinkle your clothes, a lot of people, from early signs that we can tell, they're not necessarily really seeing the sponsor. They're just looking at the image and the reviews and clicking away. It is clearly defined as sponsored, but a lot of people just look, oh, there's text above. You just look at the images and you're just clicking away.
So SG results have gotten less prominent as well. And what we mean by that is the real estate in which an AI overview actually takes up in a search result page. So during beta, the SGE results, that's what it was called before AI overviews, was taking up, a good 10%-ish more real estate as far as pixel depth goes, and knocking results down a bit more. They've trimmed that a bit. which was an interesting thing. So they're still trying to find that balance. This seemed a bit rushed, in my opinion, this rollout. Bing just rolled out and ChatGPT just rolled out with 4.0 as far as a publicly free option. Google has to keep up. And so this kind of live testing on such a large population is a little out of their wheelhouse. Usually they'll test with a small portion and baby step roll it out until they actually do an algorithm update. But they seem to have gotten a lot more aggressive here, which means we might see a lot more fluctuations as far as tests being reverted and then stepped forward. So I don't think we've finalized as far as how large this module is going to be when it's populated on a SERP. Right. So what can you do as a business owner when we know how traffic's going to be fluctuated? Okay, well, if you're a business owner in X industry or Y industry, how am I going to be affected? Is my traffic going to get hit? Are my ranks going to get hit? Is my revenue going to get hit? Most importantly, like we've been saying, it's not on all it's not on all queries. You might be populating inside of those queries and getting even better click-through rate. It might actually be a net benefit for you, like we're seeing in aggregate for our client base, or it might be somewhere in between. So, but there are some things you can do to mitigate risk and show some kind of precautions here. Oh, sorry. I think I got ahead on my deck. So yeah, SGE results less prominent, just like I was saying. And then now we're here, slide 28. So yeah, AI overviews, they're not killing visibility. Visibility has been killed in a lot of different ways over the years, as far as Google goes, depending on your industry, right? So a video module might have hurt your visibility if you didn't have a lot of videos. A local map pack might have hurt your visibility if you didn't have a local service in that particular area, but you were ranking it anyway. People also ask, there are all these different features and modules that you're always battling for visibility. But where some people say AI overviews are killing visibility, what other people say and what SEOs who have been around a long time say are each one of these is a different individual opportunity. And AIs is another individual opportunity to optimize for as much real estate as you can possibly get on that first page of Google. And that's what we're talking about here. So you see with SGE, you might be able to rank higher than you ever have before. Right. So you can, especially if you're competing against really big conglomerates, your Amazons, your Walmarts, we're seeing smaller businesses can play in this space of being cited in AI overviews, especially if they're optimizing for AI in the right ways. And based on our own studies, like Neil was talking about, and the ability of even SMBs to enter this space in a competitive way, I would see it more as an opportunity than a threat right now for the majority of industries out there. And so, do you panic? No. Do you want to test and iterate and make sure you know where you're at in your industry and in your space with the changes in the landscape? Absolutely. And so to do that, you want to make an observation, it's just scientific method kind of stuff. Check the keywords that are most important to you. How are those ranking? What AI overviews are there? Make that observation. See if you can ask yourself, how is this impacting my business? Am I being cited? Is my traffic going up? Am I not being cited? Is my traffic and revenue going down? Form a hypothesis, test a hypothesis. Okay, well, if I'm not in AI overviews, how can I optimize to get in there and recover that traffic I've observed myself dropping? Analyze the result, iterate, scale, and do what you need to do for your individual situation that your business might be in. Also, monitor your keywords as Google's AI overviews rolls out more and more. Keywords that you care about that you checked a couple of weeks ago, might have an AI overview now that you want to be aware of, especially if it's a very, very important keyword to you that you know drives a lot of revenue. And so monitor those keywords. But I want to say a caveat with this. Don't yet trust, from what I'm seeing, a third-party keyword tracker to tell you every keyword that has an AI overview right now. Because a lot of those, because the servers might be pinging internationally, which means it might not be populated, but also we're seeing that it's still, while it's for all Google users, you still might need to be logged in to populate AI overviews. And most of these crawlers aren't going to be logged in with a Google account. And so they're not going to be able to see these. And so you're going to need to monitor these manually until there's a verifiable tool out there that can actually identify things, accurately. Optimize your conversion rate. It's a no-brainer even before AI overviews. Make sure that you're squeezing everything you can out of the traffic you're getting. But I also wanted to iterate on this slide that, optimize your conversion rate, but optimize your entire conversion funnel, from click-through rate, engagement rate, time on page, all of these engagement metrics. What we're seeing is just, this is not necessarily an AI overviews thing. This is a Google API leak thing, where we see that those engagement metrics matter for ranks, and they might potentially influence AI overview citations and authorities within the AI space as well, if Google is feeding those engagement metrics into their large language models like they are into its algorithm based on the API leak that we're now aware of. So what can you actually do to tackle this? If you see a drop in traffic, or you want to optimize and want to play in this AI space, this new space, these new modules, there are ways to do that. And even the senior director of product at Search said, hey, click-through rates are pretty good here. You might want to play in this space. And so we have some tactics in order to help you do that. And what this is being coined right now is GEO. I don't know if that's what's actually going to stick in the industry, but generative engine experience, or generative engine optimization, generative experience optimization. It's basically the kind of the new SEO of how to optimize to get you more likely to be cited by these new conversational AIs that are coming out. So initially, we saw a study came out from a couple of prominent universities that were testing out large language models and conversational AI, and seeing how it was influenced based on certain factors that they were manipulating. And what these initial studies found is that citing authoritative sources was very beneficial. So don't just write a wall of content, like have support from other sources, but also adding quotes, having support from other experts, and adding statistics, having support from other trustworthy data. And so all of those things are in line with what Google also calls EEAT, right? EAT, which some people say isn't a clear ranking factor, but in my experience, you create expertise and authority and trustworthiness, and it actually helps. So these are things that we started implementing in the early beta of this, to see how it was influencing how these large language models and AI, treated our content, and we found it beneficial. We also found it beneficial if you use more casual, easily digestible language at a lower reading level than if you speak very authoritatively like a textbook. And so, that also implies these large language models, they want content that users are going to actually understand as well, right? And so having these kinds of, making sure that it's actually written in a way that isn't egotistical and is instead of inviting is also beneficial. So yeah, other things. So some things that GEO is going to take into account are going to be SEO basics. So you're going to need to have optimal technical implementations. There might be some extra technical layers on top. You might have some extra schema code in the back end you want to communicate to the search engine about. So there might be some evolutions of how technical occurs. Same thing with content. So content just like before AI, content's still important. It might be formatted a little differently. We might cite things in a little bit different ways. We might make it a little bit more easily digestible for large language models, but that format is very much in line with how humans like to digest content online as well. And so there's not a huge strategic pivot there in most ways. There are little tweaks that we've implemented and we're seeing benefit from. But in general, it's still going to come down to authority, expertise, trustworthiness, prominence, user demand, those kinds of things. So really, it's not about, is SEO dead? Should we just do paid? Should we just do social? Should we do TV? SEO is very much alive. And as an SEO that's been in the industry for about 2 decades now, I like when these quote catastrophes happen in SEO, because that means I can capitalize on them where my competitors might not. And so if you know tactics, if you're aware of these things and you're putting in more work to capitalize on the evolving landscape of search and your competitors on, you can get a good head start right now.
So like William said, we're probably not going to want to run and hide from AI. We're probably not going to ultimately want to opt our content out of AI. Instead, this is about embracing the AI overviews process and trying to figure out how we optimize to get our content seen by the AI as well as by our users. So I've got 8 strategies to do this. The first one is to get mentioned more. The more mentions you have, the more brand visibility you have, the more brand authority you have, the more your brand is the trusted go-to source of information in your space, the more likely it is that you're going to find yourselves in that handful of links at the bottom of the AI overviews link. The next one is to show EEAT. If you incorporate expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness into your content, you're most likely to increase visibility. What's interesting about both of these first 2, and in fact, really, all of the tips that I'm going to share with you, is that these are things you've already been doing. We don't know for sure exactly how to optimize to get seen in AI overviews, but we do know that Google's been giving us some tips for the last couple of years. They've been changing algorithms. They've been changing what they've been looking for. They've been moving the bar a little bit on us, just a little bit at a time. And if you've been adjusting over time, we have to believe that you're moving toward what they're looking for this new iteration of search. They're not so likely to scrap 2 years worth of work because they've rolled out a new AI generated product. And yeah, if you really want to do well with SEO, we do recommend shaving your head and growing a beard. I say, as I just looked at the group of us today and realized there's not a scrap of hair on any of our heads.
Minus the beard on my end, but yes.
Yeah, beards are optional. Beards are strictly optional. Your next big tip, SEO tip, if you want to be in those first couple of links, cover your topics thoroughly. Don't just give lip service to whatever you're writing about, whether it's web copy or blog copy. Cover everything really, really well, and always, always operate from the perspective of the end user. Google's been really clear that it wants helpful content. Google's been rewarding helpful content from companies.
Will, is that you typing on your end? Sorry to interrupt, Chris. If you can stop the typing, it's coming through on the speakers.
Google's been telling us what it wants. It wants helpful content. It wants user-driven content that answers the sort of questions that users have. So if you're writing not just for keywords, but to cover topics in a relevant way with the end goal of your user, the person looking for what you're giving them, then you're most likely to be picked up by that AI large language model and pushed up into that content. And by all means, let humans do your writing. Bet on humans. This is not a time to dump your human content team and switch over to AI generated content. At the very least, a human should be intervening in any piece of content that you're driving, because AI is pretty good. It's all right at writing, but there's an awful lot of things that AI can't do. AI can't think like a user. AI can't think like an optimizer. AI can't place your keywords in exactly the right place from a natural language processing standpoint. AI simply can't do that because AI is not really artificial intelligence. It's a large language model that's putting words together in an order that seems right, and it's pulling things in an order that seems correct. But without a person to intervene, we're sunk, and the results speak for themselves. We also recommend that you be the first to answer new questions. When something comes up in your space, jump on it. Blast out that blog. Blast out a blog that says, we don't actually know the answer to this question yet, but we're looking for it. Update your web copy to talk about the thing that you're trying today that's new, based on something that just happened. Because searchers are going to be looking for it. And if you're one of the first to have the answers, you go into that large language model first, and you're more likely to shoot up into that AI overviews section and to be linked right there and to take all of the click-through rate benefits that William talked about. Think readability. Think about readability. Make sure your content is easily digestible, is skimmable, is reader-friendly. Use bullet points, use logical heading structures, move things around so that the human eye can catch them, because if the large language model is doing what it's supposed to, it will be catching them too. That's the whole point of the natural language processing engine, is to pick things up the way your brain wants to pick them up, or your reader's brain wants to pick them up. So give concise answers. Use a logical header structure. List out your key points in takeaways at the top. We've actually started for our clients delivering a short TLDR section with all of our blogs that are optional for implementation, but it gives our clients the opportunity to post those and have AI overviews grab that snippet, plug it right in, and link to their site. It's probably also a good idea to leverage other content formats. Writing is great. I'm a big fan of blogs. But if you're also doing video content, if you're doing quizzes, if you're doing infographics, if you're generating custom imagery, if you're doing these things that make you stand out, then you're more likely to rank. Elevate your content with structured data. Make sure that you're using proper schema. Make sure that you're using proper header structures. Tell Google who you are, what you're doing, who gives you the right to do what you're doing, and exactly what it should expect to find when it gets there. Google's smart, but Google can't figure out what you want unless you tell it. If you want to rank in the AI overviews, be really, really clear with Google about precisely what you're giving them. And then extend that same structure, that passion for structure, to the entire rest of your website. Make sure that your website is built out with a logical hierarchy, proper header tags, coherent internal linking structure, optimized URL structures, be really, really clear with Google and by extension with your users what they're going to find when they get to your website and how in the world they're going to find it. Friends, none of this is a surprise. These are all the same things we've already been doing. We've already been hitting all of these same talking points for SEO. If Google's been upfront with us in the algorithm, and of course there's questions about whether Google's been completely upfront with us about lots of things at the moment, but if we can draw conclusions and tips and hints from helpful content update, from hidden gems update, from the EEAT guidelines, if we can assume that these are all building blocks for this new AI overview search experience, then what you've already been doing is what you should have been doing. And if you're not doing it yet, my goodness, we can help.
So if you want to think about what's going to come, well, with Google, they're going to end up making the AI much, much better over time. And you're going to start seeing things like multi-step reasoning capabilities. You're going to see planning capabilities in Google search, AI organized search results. And the coolest thing is, in the long run, I do believe we're going to get into a world where you're wearing contact lens or glasses, and you can pretty much see anything and get data when you're on the go. I also believe that we're going to be going into a world. I don't know if you guys saw like the MIT expose on, was it 2020 or one of those shows, or 60 Minutes, where the guy's wearing this device that connects to goes around his ear, and he can think it. And he pretty much gets the response and answer right then and there without even glasses or anything like that. And it's clear that Google is focused on using AI. And the reason being is they believe it's going to provide a better experience for users. They must have done a lot of analysis, testing, studies on this before they just go out and be like, all right, let's go integrate all this stuff in, right? And it's very clear based on the usage of ChatGPT and OpenAI that people love AI and they want these kind of experiences. The hard part is getting the experience right, which they're continually working on improving over time. If you want to set yourself up for success, I think you should focus on the three things on the right? Provide helpful and actionable advice on your pages. Make sure they're short and to the point. Of course, you want to be thorough, but don't ramble. Make sure your pages are running well technically, from site speed to linkability internally, to making sure that you're, using headings, meta tags correctly, make sure that you have a sitemap, all these types of things, right? Where you're uploading them. And this just helps ensure that your page is running smooth, your website is running smooth. And of course, be adaptable. If you are adaptable, you're going to do much better in the long run than if you're not adaptable. For example, we knew about this AI stuff for not 1 or 2 months, but for roughly a year plus. How many people have been actually adapting in advance before they started rolling out? We're working with companies and they're adapting. We're seeing great click-through rate increases, as Will showed, but majority of the companies out there aren't really adapting. They adapt after the changes happen. And it doesn't mean it's too late, but it's just much harder to adapt after versus adapting while these changes are happening. Quick reminder, look, keep to the basic principles of effective and helpful content. It's always going to pay off, especially because Google wants to put content first and foremost in front of users that really helps them solve the problems, whether it's in the AI overviews or whether it's in, linking to websites and the web pages provide really helpful information, or whether it's videos and that content is amazing and it really helps people solve their problems. We also have an upcoming webinar on June 18th. It's called You're Wasting Your Time on Paid Ads. Doing paid ads the normal way that most people are doing isn't working well. We're going to break down the new approach. Scan that QR code, register. We have some really cool data to share with you during that webinar. I hope to see you guys there on June 18th at 8 a.m. And if you're worried about your traffic and if you want to grow your clicks and your traffic with all these AI overviews that are popping up, scan that QR code, or you can just go to npdigital.com, book a call with us. We've been working on this for a while for our clients, and we've been seeing great results from it, even with all these changes. So now let's dive into some questions.
Pretty soon, we're all going to be working for the robots, right? Good stuff, everyone. Lots of questions, as we sort of thought might be the case. And we're going to start with Will. I know we talked a little bit about this, and there's a lot of folks talking about zero-click searches and Google always trying their best to keep people on the SERP. And, what does that mean for traffic? Do we have any stats, like just ballpark, as to what all of this is doing to just the percentage of traffic coming from Google organic search? Any sort of like, we're losing 40%, what's the scoop? What have we seen? That one was asked multiple times.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the source. So according to our own internal studies, like Neil was mentioning, there are net benefits to ranking in AI overviews, but how is that mitigated by not having featured snippets anymore, or other modules being pushed down, like shopping modules or video carousels or whatever? That kind of data, it's too early to tell. If you want my finger in the wind, I can give it to you, but it basically, we're seeing a similar click-through rate between AI overviews and featured snippets, so that's a wash. And we're also seeing a similar push down as far as real estate and pixel depth from featured snippets and AI overviews. In most cases, AI overviews will sometimes go a little bit more hardcore. And so because of that, AI overviews will probably be a little bit of a net loss for featured snippets. For organic ranks, that's a real big unknown right now, that it's always going to be really hard to tell, because it's like, okay, well, how much traffic do you lose if you're not in the AI overview citation, but you do have rank 1? But okay, what if you don't have rank 1, but you have rank 2? It's the user experience and the user behavior is going to change with this significant module update. And because of that, a finite number of, hey, as a business owner, how much traffic can I expect to lose? We saw the initial data from our client base, and they didn't lose any. They actually gained some. So what can we expect? I would expect us to continue to gain, because we're going to continue to fuel the fire of the strategies that we've been implementing and testing out for the last year. For you as a business owner, how much can you potentially lose? A lot. How much will you lose if you try to fight against it and maybe even capitalize or exploit AI overviews? You might actually have a net gain and you not actually lose at all. And so it's a very subjective question with a lot of contextual variables that would need to be put into place. But as far as like a straight module loss scenario, I don't expect that to be where traffic loss comes from. I expect traffic loss to come from when your content that you've been ranking for, that you've been getting a lot of traffic for, is now very easily answered by the AI overview, so they no longer need to click on your website.
Right, but there's some value in brand recognition, even though you're losing those clicks or that traffic. I mean, it sounds very similar to voice search that we've been talking about for a long time. So there's lots of values other than just the click. So while I have you, Will, and maybe Neil too, is there any info on this in Search Console? Like, do we know if we're getting impressions from AI overviews yet? Like, how do we sort of track the progress of all of this? I know Bright Edge said that they have some sort of AI overview feature. I've seen press releases about some other ones as well, SEMrush and others. But does Search Console have anything yet, and thoughts there?
Yeah, I think no doubt there will be third-party tools that come out, that will attempt to crawl this as efficiently as possible, similarly as how they do now. Search Console, Google has come out and said in I/O, they're not going to segment out that data in Search Console for us. So the only way you're going to be able to segment out that first-party Search Console data is by correlative assumptions and potentially testing and iterations, but you're not going to get that data in Search Console. You'll eventually probably get it from third-party tools that are going to crawl Google in a different way than the information that Google Search Console gives you. But even then, take that information with a grain of salt, because those third-party crawlers, it's a a single time and moment and space that they pulled that data from. So we will get better and better at tracking this data on the third-party side. But with the way that Google came out and took the stance immediately saying, we're not breaking this down for you in Search Console, is a little bit concerning to somebody who's a data nerd and would love to have Google telling me exactly what that data is.
Yeah, do no evil. Let's see here. Ooh, yeah, lots of people asking this one. So maybe this is a good one for Neil. Is it because there's a lot of people that just don't seem to like this stuff? And we noted that, you know, search trends for how do I disable AI overviews is on the rise. Is it possible that maybe because of all of this, Google just becomes like not the dominant search engine? And then a follow-up question to that, do we know like how much market share ChatGPT, for example, is maybe taking from Google? You know, Gemini, I'm going to Gemini more and more instead of just Google search. Like, is there any information or data out there that says, yeah, you know, actually 2% of the population or whatever is actually getting information from ChatGPT? And then the follow-up question to that is, are there strategies that do the same SEO strategies work for ChatGPT and maybe Gemini, you know, as traditional Google search? That was like 3 questions in one, Neil. I apologize, but a lot of chatter around that.
Sure. So to give you an idea, OpenAI is popular. That includes ChatGPT, 1.8 billion visits a month. Wow. To give you an idea on Google, and this is all from SimilarWeb, Google gets 83.5 billion visits a month. There's a big delta. Do I see Google not being the dominant player? No, I still see them being the dominant player. What's going to happen is just like how it was either Will or Chris or someone or me, I don't know whose slides it was, ended up breaking down the AI overviews or, you know, the AI responses over time. And if you look at it, it's decreased. What will happen is if users aren't happy, they'll show it less and less until they can figure out how to make them happy with it. Or if they can't ever make them happy with it, they'll just continually push it down or maybe potentially even remove the feature. I don't think they're going to remove the feature. I think they're going to work on improving it. But you'll see less and less of it if people aren't happy with the results until they can fix the quality of it. And does it mean that you shouldn't optimize for ChatGPT recommending your product or service? No, you should. But I really do see Google being the dominant player for search. But what's going to end up happening is there's going to be multiple places to search. You know, as we say here at NP Digital, it's not search engine optimization, it's search everywhere optimization. You should be optimizing for ChatGPT. You should be optimizing for Instagram and Facebook. You should be optimizing if you have apartments that you're leasing out, you know, short term, you should be optimizing your rankings on Airbnb. They literally have a search and you can actually optimize to increase your rankings on Airbnb. Search is everywhere. You can optimize rankings. And if you do that for all the platforms and not just Google, you're going to be better off in the long run. But I do believe Google is going to be the dominant player for a very long time coming.
I think we'll end with that stellar note because we're right at the top of the hour. Thank you so much, Chris, Neil, Will. Good stuff. Google always keeping us SEOs and digital marketers on our toes. So no surprise.
Yep. And if you need help with your marketing and adapting with all the stuff that's happening, check out npdigital.com. We also just bought an agency in Southeast Asia called Search Gurus. We just added 120 more people to the organization. But we're growing fast. We've been working really well with, you know, companies of all sizes and providing amazing results. Hopefully you go to NP Digital and we can work together. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Happy Tuesday.
My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world, and they also said I created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. I started my first website at the age of 16. I took all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing firm. The marketing firm provided no results, and I quickly learned that I wasn't alone. Out of my frustration and from being broke, I had no choice but to learn marketing. My first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped him generate another $25 million in sales, and from that point, I realized the power of marketing. I helped everyone that I could, and I built my reputation by being honest and over-delivering. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay, but nothing's more satisfying than helping small business owners succeed. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., Fast Company, and even on my own blogs. It's so awesome to know that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material in their classroom. Over the years, I've received awards from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. People believe marketing is expensive and difficult. Fortunately, that's not true. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you.